If you follow our advice, you might not get the big deer, but you will get close, maybe.
Yeah.
So I guess this is November 2nd, and we are kind of coming off of our whitetail week. Me, my brother-in-law Matt, and Luke, my brother, we took a week off of work to try to kill a whitetail deer. And we were successful, but we're just going to talk about, that week. We took it from October 15th, and we hunted basically 4 days in a row with one scouting day to start it off. And we just want to rehash it, talk about what we learned, try to learn some stuff, and record some of the successes and some of the takeaways. So we went to an unnamed public land in South Carolina, and basically it kind of dominated us, but I would say I've been doing like whitetail weeks where I travel somewhere and hunt whitetail, and I think every single time, even when I just get shut out, I learn something about the area, I learn something about whitetail behavior, and I think I improve my art of hunting. What did you guys think about your first trip? What was like you thought, and what wasn't? What was different?
Well, I was really excited with, we've got cameras all over the land we hunt most of the time. It was cool going back to who knows what's out here, because we ain't been around to look at it. There could be a freak.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say probably, not having to come home and do the whole housekeeping chores, and you miss your wife and kids, but being out there dedicated to hunt, you're not getting text messages when you're coming home, so like you are fully devoted, win or lose, you're out there in the woods and you're hunting, and you're just in the morning, you're in a tree, you don't like it, you pop down and you go to a different tree in the afternoon and pack a little sandwich, and you have everything you need, and it's just dedication. So that's what I thought was pretty cool.
We didn't really rough it, that's for sure. We had some pretty good facilities.
Yeah.
But it's kind of gritty and tough to get out in the dark and go hunting every morning. I know by the end I was a little weary, but I knew for me to feel like I had tried and didn't let myself down or leave anything out on the field, I had to get up and go hunt.
I guess we got to detail what happened. We showed up on a Sunday. It's public land in South Carolina, so you can't really hunt on a Sunday. Took a pontoon over to where we seen on Onyx, and me and you have been there in 2020. Took a kayak trip. This was way too far to be kayaking, so we're bringing a motor next time we come in here. But then the first day, we got up there about 3 o'clock. We were ready to go. Look around. We dropped Zane off at one point and dropped Matt off another, and went up into the woods from the water. That was something you were excited about, is hopefully trying to get away from the people.
I just thought we were going to get a lot of deer movement from the top down, where the people coming on the roads and just pushing the deer back further and further in toward the lake. I think being there on the opener was clutch. We saw, I would say, there was very few hunts where any of us were shut out or didn't see a deer. But we saw more deer on the opening morning by far than the last days that we were there.
Yeah.
So
I ended up seeing 7 that first morning. Some does and our fawns, and then a spike, and I think another set of a doe and a spike. But we ended up all seeing lots of little bucks.
yeah.
Lots of little bucks. But that was enough deer activity to keep me going back there to the same tree for the next 2 or 3 hunts. I don't remember, but most of them.
And I thought that was a good thing to do. If you have deer traffic, I don't see why a good buck wouldn't do the same. I know people are sitting there thinking, okay, big bucks don't do what the does and the young bucks do, but I would say we were seeing some rut cruising activity, And I would say if you see young bucks cruising a place, I would have expected a big buck to travel the same way, as long as it was in a secluded enough place. He wasn't coming up beside a farmer's hayfield. And we were deep, I felt, at least from the lake advantage.
Well, first of all, this place that we went to has a limit. You can only shoot one doe, and the buck has to be 4 points on either side. And it was archery only, so I expected to see at least a lot of does and whatever, antler deer we did see. I thought it was going to be, pretty good compared to what South Carolina has to offer in general. Didn't see any shooter bucks, just a couple of does with fawns, and that's not something I'm willing to shoot. I feel like this is my second year hunting in general, and I want to have my standards high so that way I can do my part in helping the deer population, get better in this area at least. So, it was kind of crazy for how much food there was in the area. I think we came to the conclusion that there's so much that they're not drawn to certain areas for food because there's so many oaks and so many persimmon trees around that lake that they had options everywhere.
We were all pretty disappointed with the buck sign there. There wasn't much rubs. There would just be little tiny trees. Hardly saw a scrape.
Maybe that should have been a sign to us
Probably.
to move along. I thought with the regulations on this hunting property and us being there on the opening week, we were going to see many bucks of the age class that the restrictions were supposed to foster. We all saw bucks, but they were all below the age structure the rules were going to dictate. So how can those deer, if it's opening morning, they have not been molested or hunted or killed unless they were supposedly of that age bracket last year? Why hasn't all these bucks moved up into the 4 points on one side?
Which we'd be stoked about.
We would. I mean, that would have thrilled me. But we hunted hard one scouting day and 3.5 hunting days, and nobody saw a legal buck. We did have one group of guys we ran into that had shot a buck, which is awesome. Thank you. Good
Matt tells
job.
about that one.
So the place that I wanted to hunt that first day that I scouted had the 4 persimmon trees on the bank. The lake was way down because in the wintertime they kind of do
They
that
would have
sometimes.
typically been dropping in the water.
They would have been dropping in the water. So this time they're dropping in the bank. There's a creek coming right out of private land and tons of oak trees and acorns on the ground. So I thought this would be a great spot to hunt. I hunted there the first morning, didn't see anything shootable, just the mama and 2 fawns. And then so after I got down, I scouted around and found another more open area, and I'm debating whether I go to the same spot or the new spot. Well, I go to the new spot, and these hunters come in and beats their boat, 50 yards away from me on the bank. And they had no idea I was here. It's a part of public land, so you can't get mad. And then
How was their approach?
I heard beers cracking open. They hammered the little engine to put it on the bank, and I was like, dang, I've been here for 2 hours in this tree already trying to take this seriously, and these guys just getting here. This is not going to be cool for me.
Smoking and joking.
Apparently that's the secret though.
Yeah, well, they start walking towards me, or one of them does, and I wave him down with my little vest, and he kind of sees me and walks the other way, and I see them climbing in the tree. One of them was almost in the tree that I was in that morning. Right before it gets too dark, I hear a thwack, and this big bodied deer runs practically right under me, and I am just in disbelief that it was a pretty decent sized deer, 4 points. I think it was a 9 point, had 4 on one, 5 on the other. It ran right under me, and I was like, SOB, if I would have just listened to my gut and sat here in the evening, I would have been in the position to shoot it. Not say I would have hit it, but I would have been in a better position to get it. I climbed down and talked to the guys, and they ended up being real cool and apologized for walking on me. But I got the one guy's number, and I still text him every now and then. Cool guy, but it was crazy. They never found the deer. I told him where he ran off to. Turns out the deer tried to
splash
swim.
too.
I heard a big splash, and it sounded like he tried to swim through the cove, and the deer drowned. that they had dogs out there that night, never found them, and then the next morning we hunted that same area and found that deer on the bank, and they pulled him out of the water and hid him in the bushes for him and texted him the location. So that's as close as we got to a deer.
It was a big deer.
Wild experience, the closest I've ever seen, a buck run around me, somebody else's deer. But just the lesson learned is if you think you're in a good spot, give it another shot before you move on. I mean, if I would have listened to my gut instead of just getting impatient and moving, it could have been me. So
Yeah.
but pretty cool experience.
Of the hunts that were successful and you saw deer, why were deer coming through there?
I believe it was that first morning for me. I only saw the 3 plus the 1 buck that had been shot. But I think they were traveling from Luke. It was the same group of deer, and I think they were heading into their bedding zone up in that public land where it looked like a bunch of pines and thick stuff that you can't really get through. So I think that I was their last stop, or one of the last stops before they get to their chilling out in the day zone. So I mean, that's in the evening time in that same area. I never saw anything come down, but I think that's what it was. They were heading to their bedding.
To speak quickly about it, mine was deep in the end of a neck, so they aren't gonna ford the cove, I wouldn't suspect. I did see the place I picked first. I could see pretty well, maybe 50 yards in front of me and 100 yards down toward the lake. And I did see at times deer crossing the end of the cove. So that was basically, if you're casting your net, that's funneling all those deer around that. And that's why you thought it worked so good. And it did show us a crap ton of deer, but
Not the right ones, huh?
I've definitely walked into places and been like, a deer would be here. But there's no proof a deer has been.
I think that's the thing. When we hunt private land, I think there's deer density because we put out food plots and we put out salt blocks and we have no hunting pressure. I think when you're on public land and the habitat is good, sometimes the deer density is not there. So you must find proof that deer are there.
Day 3.5, we were tired of it. We were just sick of striking out. With these rules, we thought we were going to smoke a giant and somebody's going to get a doe, and it's going to be a field dress party. So we decided to pack up and get back to the hunt club and do the same thing, but home territory.
The bucks were moving looking for does, like the rut was on in a way that I've rarely seen it in South Carolina that morning. I mean, I even got a little a film of a 4-point with one side broken off, so he was actually a 2-point battling a super spike. He said, "They look like a chopstick." They did it. I'll roll the clip.
That might be the most dangerous.
Right in the eyeballs.
Nothing to keep them safe.
Yeah. But and that kind of led into.
That's how we're gonna rattle in South Carolina from here on out. We're gonna have some. Let's just take a little.
You know what? That would be packable. Just put them in your pockets.
It would take something really special to turn this trip around. We just couldn't get on any deer. And I just feel bad for wasting the boys' BTO and our time. But also I'm driven to not give up. It was hard to get out of bed. But you know what? sometimes magic happens when you least expect it.
I came back Saturday morning and I had a good hunt in the same stand. And when I was walking out scouting, I had a buck cruising up. And I kind of like, he was so like doe crazed, I could like kind of sneak in on him while he was moving. And then he got nervous and like kind of kicked it into second gear after I'd like trailed him and was trying to get close to him. I literally drew him like twice, but he would have stuff between me and him, probably 30 yards or so.
Oh,
And then he
crap.
kind of like moved off because he had kept looking back and I'd get still. And he got a little nervous and he kind of kicked it into another gear and I couldn't keep up. So I went back and I was scouting some more. And it wasn't any time later, here he comes like trotting up the creek bed that I was scouting. So I just sunk down to my knees and we had like a little stare off. And I just like, while he was literally staring right at me, I just started fitting an arrow on my nock. I ranged the deer himself, 23 yards, and then went to like, I thought, I guess I'm gonna frontal this guy. And then he kind of come to his senses and kind of wheeled and jumped across the creek. And then proceeded to come up the other side of the creek by me. And I was sitting on the ground and he had one little gap and I whistled at him and he stopped and I shot him.
I just smoked a deer. Horrible shot. Horrible shot. I gut shot it, totally gut shot it. And he's laying right here. I shot him maybe 10 minutes ago. He is dead right here. He is dead right here.
I pull my cell phone out to film this deer, but then he picks his head up, and I drop the phone super quick and get a follow-up shot. Right after the shot, I get my cell phone back on him. He only makes it a few more feet before expiring.
Oh my gosh. I can't believe that. I cannot believe that. What an awesome year.
Kinda. Tease.
I guess moving forward, the next day,
I drove the little Jeep out to the hunt club, picked a spot across the road. There's like, just like the home side, and then there's like that side we barely touch. And I pulled off on the side we barely touch, and I was sitting there getting my stuff out of the back, and the wind is ripping right down the, I guess I'll set up the area. We had some pictures, 2 o'clock, of some big old bucks back really close to Grandma's house.
2 a.m.
Yeah, 2
late
a.m.
at night.
Trying to figure out where in the heck they come from. And my best guess was the part of the hunt club no one goes, and none of us go hardly because it's very difficult. It's just briars as far as the eye can see. And there's one hardwood vein in the middle of it that's got a creek or a drainage depending on how much rain. And I hunted there once before. We went on this public land trip, and I was gonna hunt there again as we got back. And it's in the morning, it's in the black, and the wind is ripping at my back while I'm looking at where I'm gonna go. So I just said, I guess not, not today. And then we reconvene at nighttime, just kicking it with my cousin right there at Grandma's house. Get into the woods late. It's like 5 o'clock. The wind is acceptable and very minimal. So I park the Jeep, walk down the highway, drop into a drain. That's the drain I'm hunting. Walk in the bottom of this drain all the way down. It's pretty loud in the bottom, but I'm hoping that the walls will keep it in. Or maybe I probably sound like a hog going through it, to be honest. And then got to the drain, and there's just paths left and right. Haven't seen all that many scrapes at Grandma's.
So there's deer
There
trail.
were-
Are they
there were
running
trails.
longitudinally along the ditch?
They were running right next to the creek in a few places it crosses over, and it's logically the place you would want to walk.
The only way, so that how a human would get in there is very often how a deer will move through it, right?
Definitely.
Especially one as big a rack as yours.
So it's, yeah, walk down to the creek. There's a couple of those, what are they called? Saw oaks? What's that tree that? Anyways, there's a tree around here that every time you see one, it's got branches hanging down, and if a scrape is to be made,
Oh, yeah.
they will be on that thing.
What is that?
I don't know what it's called.
It's like got these little, it's
a
like
very-
a white bark. And it
Yeah, very pale
comes
bark.
down, and it's just tailor-made for deer to lick the branches and make a scrape.
And so there was a big one of those that had 3 different places that looked old, not new. They had some leaves and
Historical
debris in them, but it was like 3 places on this tree that's on the creek has had big scrapes in them. The day I killed that one was the 3rd time I'd sit there. One morning, 2 evenings, I believe. That's about 5 o'clock, and then 5:30, I hear something. And as in that video, there's that big tulip poplar about 2 feet wide diameter, and he comes walking up, and I hear it, and I kind of like lean forward in my saddle, and I see a side of his rack outside, and then he turns his face, and I see his head. That hurt him.
When you saw it, was it like an unmistakable? I'm gonna shoot that deer, or did you have to think about it?
Not really. I did think about it. I was like,
Yeah. I think,
maybe. And I had a second to think about all my past hunts where I'm like, I am going to hit him good. I'm going to think about shooting him right. I'm going to follow through. I'm going to look at where he runs. All that stuff to like try to get better. It still wasn't normal. But anyways,
yeah.
and then he takes a few steps and I was like, he's about to come around that sucker. So I draw. He takes a long time. I end up setting my cam on my thigh. He walks out. I'm terrified he's going to walk right under me because it might have worked, but I'm not going to shoot a deer through the spine on the top with an arrow. Just not going to do it. And he comes right under, and then he turns up that little finger, and that's where I blasted him. I shot it with my rangefinder. It's 12 yards. To the ground. Like he was close. From the saddle, when I shot this deer, I saw in the sunlight, this is 5:30 in the afternoon, in the sunlight, a blood stream on the other side of this thing. And that's gave me a lot of hope while I was still hanging up there. I could have been confident that he went down and I'm going to find him. But past experiences have like, oh my gosh, I gotta get my hands on him. And then I saw him and his head was folded up kind of under him with just sometimes, and this is a testament back to the broadhead, there was splashes that weren't on his path. Like you could find some blood here and there's blood here. Like off the trail.
Oh man.
And those tried to throw me off a little bit.
When you saw him, how close were you to him? Think stepping on top
Probably
of him? Or
less than 10 yards.
Oh yeah?
Less than 10 yards because it was those pines and those
Did you
sticks.
exclaim or anything? Or did you just like, you probably
I
quiet
was just,
by
oh my
yourself?
gosh, he's there. Thank you. Thank goodness.
Yes. That's awesome.
Every time I shoot a deer, no matter what it is, it's always like I just get like right into praying. It's like, Lord, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for the animal, and please let it die quick. Please let it die quick. I feel like a lot of people think that deer hunters or hunters in general don't like the animals they're hunting or don't care for. But it's kind of weird that you kill them. But I don't kill that many. Not many at all. But
I love them. They are the coolest things. Every time I shoot one, it makes me feel unworthy. It's like, golly, that was something so cool. And I got to shoot it to take its life. It makes you sad, but you're excited about it. Not even happy. Because, like, in life, there's way better things than happy. I'm not saying shooting a deer is the best thing ever, but you gotta try it out to figure some stuff out about what's real and what ain't.
Dang. Look at this. That's where it went in.
Dang.
Oh, you cleaned him
So it's
out.
like
Yeah.
across there.
On the
He was
important-
angled a little bit further than I thought. I kind of thought he'd come out flat, but. And he was limping on this left foot. I thought it might be his knee or something. I think it's this. Look at this. His toe is like cracked
Oh.
pretty bad and
Oh,
sliced right
yeah.
there. I don't know if he was stuck in something or what.
Not bothering him now.
No.
Look how
It's been a long time since I shot a good one with a bow.
look how wide that cut is.
Slump is broken.